Okay, good afternoon everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar. First of all, let me just check that you can all hear me. If a few of you could type in the question box just to confirm that you can hear me, that would be great. Okay, perfect. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Chris Bullen and I'm a Premium Account Manager here at White Label Dating. I've been with the company since the start of 2015 and look after a number of bronze, silver and gold partners, helping them to grow their revenues and brands. Any questions that you have throughout this webinar, just type them into the question box and we'll be answering them at the end. Today I want to talk to you about a new product that our B2C team have been using to improve the performance of their landing pages. The B2C team run a collection of our own in-house brands such as Just Singles, Something Serious and Singles 365. These sites all run on the same WLD platform and help to increase active member levels within the product. The B2C team also acts as a great test bed for us in terms of new traffic sources and acquisition methods that they try out, testing new features for the product and also new landing page design and ideas. Now, I don't personally know what each of you are currently doing to improve the performance of your landing pages, but hopefully the next 20 minutes will provide you with some new information and ideas. When thinking about improving conversion rates, a logical step is to try and better understand user behaviour. Before this webinar, we asked you to fill out a quick survey to find out how you think users interact with your pages. Here are the results. So 78% of you think that they click on the registration form and look at the branding. 56% of you think they look at images of other members and read the content. Interestingly, no one thinks they check the terms and conditions on a page. To improve your conversion rate, it's important to try and understand how people are actually interacting with your pages. Click-to-reg, bounce rate and session times are probably the most commonly used metrics. Now, this data is useful and may well help improve landing pages to some extent, but it doesn't tell us the full story. What we really need to understand is how users are actually interacting with our pages. Where are they clicking? Where are they scrolling to? Where are they spending their time? And what are they ignoring? Heat maps are a visual representation of how users are actually interacting with your pages, where they are layered with color reference data showing you user interaction on the page. By using a heat mapping program, we can get the answers to our questions. From our pre-webinar survey, we know that only 13% of you are already using heat mapping to measure the performance of your pages. So to the rest of you, this may be an alien term. The easiest way for me to explain heat maps is to show you. Here's a heat map for the current Just Singles homepage. Now, it's not a huge surprise that the majority of clicks and attention are on the registration form. This is detailed by the red section here. The red parts of the heat map are the hottest parts, where they're getting the highest number of clicks. So it's no surprise that we have the highest level of attention around the registration form and also the login button up the top here. As you then go down through to the green colours and the blue colours, this is still registering clicks, but not as many as the hotter red parts. What is interesting is the other areas of the page that users are clicking on around the registration form, with a hotspot next to the arrow that's pointing at the form on the right. This is just to the right-hand side here. Perhaps this means we need to think about how distracting the top elements could be for users, or we need to use them to our advantage to direct a user to the area of the page we want them to interact with. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. Isn't this data already available in Google Analytics? GA doesn't necessarily give us all the data that we can get from heat maps, and it isn't always the easiest to use. So we went looking for another solution. After researching a few different solutions, we decided to take a free trial on PT Engine. The first thing we liked was that implementation is pretty straightforward. PT Engine provides a tracking code, and all that's needed is to place this in the body of any domain and landing page you wish to track. But PT Engine offers us more than just heat maps. PT Engine offers quite a few benefits over GA, is far easier to set up, and the data easier to interpret. GA, however, is still the industry standard and go-to product for monitoring website performance and metrics, but it does have its limitations. So GA has individual codes needed to collect each set of data, a complicated data analysis process with various screens and processes to go through, and only monitors interactive click data. What PT Engine can offer us is only a single code needed to collect the data, saving time on implementation and setup. The ability to add filters, making it easier to analyze the data, so you can easily split your data by device and by source. Offers us the heat map analysis that we just showed you. It also gives us data on interactive and non-interactive clicks. I'll come on to explain this more in a moment. Scroll arrival rate and attention map data. It's all in one simple analytics tool. Let me show you the main dashboard of PT Engine. So here is the main dashboard, which provides you with user demographics, device and general information summarized much better and more accessible than those provided by Google Analytics. You can very quickly and easily see where your traffic is coming from, what device users are using, bounce rates, session times, all in one simple screen. So we have on the right hand side here your different devices. You can click on details and, as I said, add these filters, break it down, but it also gives you operating system and browsers as well, so you can really understand exactly how your users are viewing your sites. You have some source information here, and then up here page visits, unique visits, and also average visit duration, bounce rate. You can also see this broken down to page level, so we can look at our individual pages, all the same information, and you can then go back to that same dashboard that we just saw at a page level. PT Engine is the only heat mapping system that we've seen that allows us to see both interactive and non-interactive clicks. By this I mean areas of the page that have links or buttons, so your registration forms and login buttons, but also any area of the page that a user clicks outside of these elements. So this can be literally anywhere on the page. This is extremely useful in determining areas of a page that aren't currently interactive that maybe should be. Let me show you an example. Here is a very simple landing page with the registration and terms and conditions sections being the only interactive areas of the page. Yet you can see clicks spread right across the page. So we have these hotspots around the registration forms and, interestingly, the terms and conditions section, which, according to our questionnaire, was an area that you thought didn't actually get that much attention. We also have clicks spread right across the page, hotspot down the bottom here. You can see blue clicks down into the bottom right and also at the top left here. So a lot of clicks around the page are people trying to click into more information. Are they trying to get rid of the highlighted section? It's all these types of things that you can start to look at and try and understand when using a software like this. So it highlights how users may not always behave in the way that you think. Now, ahead of this webinar, we asked you how many users you think scroll to the bottom of the page. Some of you think 25% of users scroll to the bottom of the page, but the majority of you think that only 10% of users reach the bottom. And you're not far off. Here we have another heat map of another one of our B2C pages, where we still have the color reference data, where again the attention is mainly around the registration form and the login button, but also with clicks spread around the first page fold. Now, the other part of the heat map that PT Engine provides us with is details on how many users scroll to a certain area of the page and where users are spending the majority of their time viewing. If you look for the horizontal lines on the page, so just along here and again lower, these are indicators of how far a user is scrolling down a page. A percentage figure is given at the scroll point so we can see exactly how far users are getting. Obviously, 100% of people will see the first viewport of the screen, so it's the section of the page that's always visible to everyone. As we move further down the page, though, we instantly drop to 26%, through to 14%, 12%, 11%. Now, before the webinar, 56% of people thought that the users click on images of other members on the page. However, this heat map actually shows that the images are not being clicked on at all. You can see this by a lack of the hotspots like we've seen around the registration form. That data is still here, just in far fewer numbers of clicks. So this reinforces our point that users aren't necessarily behaving the way we think they are on our pages. So 11% is our final figure here, until we reach the bottom of the page where we're finding that actually only 7% of people are reaching it. From this, it's clear that we need to think about page length and what we are filling our pages with. Do pages need more encouragement to scroll further down? Do we need smaller pages with less content? Or is it that actually the 7% of users reaching the bottom of the page are our highest converting? These are the kind of questions you can start asking and answering by using PT Engine. Linking in with this, we can also find out where on a page is getting the most attention in terms of time spent viewing. So here we have another heat map interpreted in a slightly different way. This version now removes the clicks and replaces the same color scheme idea with information on where on the page is being viewed the most. Considering what we have just learned from the scroll rate, we can expect that the top section of the page will receive the most attention, with it then cooling down into a green color, which stays fairly consistent until we reach a cold spot here around the member feed, which is the blue section. We then get a small peak of heat just below the member feed. Perhaps this row of 4 members is more eye-catching. It then cools right down as we reach the bottom of the page, coinciding with the scroll rate. There's also further features to understand about specific user interaction. Here's the interaction of a mobile registration form. Although it doesn't show the conversion rate of the page, it does show where within the form a user has dropped off. You can see the total number of clicks and the percentage of your total clicks for each section of the form, with the level of clicks reducing as users get further through the form. This can then open the door for experimenting with the ordering of form fields to increase the percentage of clicks. Another feature that we really like is the ability to exclude IP addresses. If you're anything like me, you're visiting most of your pages on a daily basis, which can cause false data if you're not excluding your own visits. So you can exclude multiple IP addresses here, so definitely add in your own, ours, your partner managers, your developer, anyone who's frequently looking at your websites. You want to exclude those visits so you can actually get really accurate data. So what are some of the key things we can take away from what we have discovered so far? Users don't scroll as far as you may think, and this is regardless of network, territory, channel, design, and device type. Before seeing today's presentation, how far down the page did you think a user would scroll? The Love to Meet example showed us that we often see a huge drop-off in scroll arrival rate from the first viewport down to the next, e.g. 100% to 25% right down to 7% at the bottom of the page. But this needs to be tested on your own landing pages and with your own traffic. Every landing page can differ greatly in results, and certainly the traffic and where you're bringing in your traffic can have a big impact in your results and how your landing page needs to perform. So what does this mean for conversion? It doesn't provide us an immediate answer, i.e. shorter pages are better or more scrolling is better. But what it does do is help you narrow down what to test next, and this is the key here. The B2C team carried out a test on Just Senior Singles recently where a shorter page actually lost to a longer one. More people scrolled down the page, but the conversion rate was lower. So clearly there is more to explore here and for you to test on your own landing pages. In general, we need to focus user attention on the task that we want them to perform, whilst giving them sufficient reasons to want to join without being distracted. Certain elements distract users' attention, which we saw on the casual route example. The focus on terms and conditions as well as the other page elements could harm conversion rates. We also saw this in a recent Just Senior Singles test, where we had more content visible in the first viewport, and this had a negative impact on conversion. So what next? PT Engine isn't the only option for you in terms of page analysis. But for a single service solution providing multiple layers of data, I can't recommend it highly enough. I have implemented this with a key partner of mine, and we have now been in a position to make changes to our landing page template, which has decreased load time, increased session time, and decreased bounce rate. All of your partner managers are aware of this solution, and I would highly recommend you discuss with them which sites you wish to address within your portfolio. PT Engine offers free trials on all of its packages and even has a single site package with no subscription cost at all. If we can all increase the click-to-registration performance of our landing pages, then think of the extra revenue that we could be generating with no additional advertising costs. An increase in your click-to-reg will help to reduce your CPLs and increase your ROI. Work out yourselves how much extra revenue you would generate if you can increase your click-through rate by 5%. How many extra basic registrations would that be, and how much extra revenue in lifetime value? We have an opportunity to learn and make a real difference to our landing page conversion rates, although with a long process of testing. Thank you for listening. Let's discuss and see if you have any questions for us. I have John here with me from our B2C team to help answer questions. He's been using PT Engine pretty extensively on the B2C product so far. So if you have any questions, then type them away in the question box and we'll see if we can answer them for you. Okay, so it looks as though I think we have a question coming through now. So, very interesting stuff. We'll definitely be implementing PT Engine. Some questions. Could you please share your conversion rates on B2C sites? Interested to hear a baseline. Conversion rates vary really site by site, and there'll be a great variation dependent on the traffic in the site. So individual conversion rates for sites I wouldn't really say would be relevant to you, but definitely worthwhile looking into your own and working out what improvements can be made. What would be good, John, is actually if I could ask you maybe about some of the changes that you guys have made to your sites from learnings from PT Engine.
Sure. Well, we've been looking at our pages recently and making some modifications. In fact, we're creating a new landing page test at the moment based on the length of the page. So we've seen from our tests on Just Senior Singles that a longer page is not necessarily good, but that sometimes a shorter page doesn't convert as well. So this clearly warrants some exploration. So what we're going to try now is to have a page which works a lot harder in this first viewport. So we're going to ensure that the registration form, that the selling points and other key information are all available without having the user scrolling down the page at all, because we want to make sure they don't miss any of the content. And we're also going to create a customized version of this for people on mobile devices, so it's going to be really interesting to see the results.
Okay, so we've had a question come through from Patrick. Can you see a heat map of individual pages on the Reg Wizard, so registration wizard. John, are you sure on this one?
You can drill down and see a heat map for any page for which you've installed the PT Engine script and for which you have visits, and you can also organize these in quite a useful way. So sometimes when you have URL parameters on the end from advertising, you can choose to group all of these pages together. And that will give you a much clearer view of what's happening. This is a particular advantage over Google Analytics. So yes, you can see data for any page you've installed the script on.
Great, thanks for that, John. So if we have any more questions, now's your final chance. I think we've got one question just coming through. So we've had a question asking what other heat mapping software was trialled. John, you conducted the trials for this process actually, so I'll let you take this one as well.
Sure. We did look at a number of other providers out there after concluding that Google Analytics wouldn't particularly help us. There's another company out there called Hotjar that we looked at, but in this case we felt that PT Engine offered a better solution for us because of the sheer number of visits that our sites get. They offered a very competitive package, and we were able to organize and group our sites in a way that was quite meaningful for the rest of the team.
Great, thanks, John. So John, just actually a question from me really, actually just as a final point. Throughout your process of dealing with this and from implementing it, is there anything in particular that surprised you the most? Anything that you found or discovered on pages that you thought was really totally different than your thoughts?
Well, yeah, there is one thing that occurs to me. When we were looking at where people were clicking on our pages, as we've seen, we can see where people are filling in registration forms and which stage of the form that they're getting to. Now, we always assume that people will be very reluctant to part with personal information, like an email address, and that would lead to a really big drop-off. But what we've seen with a lot of our sites was that other data was harder to obtain. For example, date of birth, and one or two other things. It's really, you can't make any assumptions about what people are going to be willing to part with in terms of information. You really do have to test these things for yourselves. So as a result of getting this data, we have decided to change the order of our form fields because we thought that if people were presented with the fields in a different order, they might well exhibit different behavior, and this would enable us to optimize the form, change the microcopy on the labels, for example, and try and ask for it in as friendly way as possible. It's also something we've tried to give people a reason as to why we're actually asking for this piece of information. So if we want an email address, well, why do you need that? I don't particularly want to part with it. Or why do you need my date of birth? Those kinds of things can help ease a user's kind of fears, I guess, when it comes to parting with their personal information.
Okay, well, I think that's it. Everything question-wise from everyone. This recording will be available to you all afterwards, so that will get finalised and sent out to you all. And finally, yeah, thank you for listening. Thanks for coming along. Any further questions, then get in touch with your partner manager. As I said, they all know about this solution, and I'm sure we'll be keen to discuss with you about next steps. Happy testing.